So Diablo 4 is around the corner, well, the beta is, and today I'm going to be discussing one of my favourite builds in any Diablo. I've always played a Necromancer or Summoning class, and I've been messing around with the build calculator link in the description if you want to mess around with it yourself. And we're going to talk about the Summoning build. I'm going to explain to you what this is that you're looking at and how you can make it a lot easier to decipher it at a glance. The first thing you need to know when you look at this skill tree is that it starts at the top at the basic section and then it goes all the way down to your capstone section. When you're looking at the shapes of each node, it's important to know what they stand for. Your square shapes are your skills, your diamond shapes are your skill upgrades, which obviously will be coming off the skill. Your circular nodes are your passives. And you need to remember when making any build, you can only have 6 skills. Now with the Necromancer, it's important to note when you are running a summoning build, 2 of those skill slots will be taken. One will be taken for skeletal mages and warriors, which is rolled into one button, and the other will be for summon golem. Skeletal mages and warriors will use corpses when you summon them. These are important things to take note when it comes to deciding what we select and where. Now that we've explained that, and just briefly by the way, we're not going to be going into the Paragon board for obvious reasons, as well as obviously items because we don't know what items are going to be in the game. This is merely looking at the skill tree to give players an idea of what a skill build would look like. Now, when I make a build, I like to basically play a role. I like to play a fantasy. And in this build, I am a summoning necromancer who's building a bigger army as he possibly can that deals as much damage, basically zerging everything while I sit in the back having a sandwich or watching Netflix. That is the whole premise of this build. So let's start in reverse, just to have an idea of where this build is heading to and then building it backwards. It's what I like to do when going through a build, so let's go into it. So starting off with the capstones. Capstone's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a final skill, it's a final node that caps your build, that actually pushes you into a specific class fantasy. Now the first one is strength in numbers, which obviously for a summoner build is what we're going to be selecting, but I'll show you the others as well. While you have at least 7 minions, they gain 20% attack speed. The next one is Shadow Blight, which goes into a more skill focused shadow build. Shadow damage inflicts enemies with Shadow Blight for 2 seconds. I won't read every single one to keep the video short. Then you've got Rathma's Vigor, increasing maximum life. This is for tanky builds. Then you've got Bone Skill build, which is more of a physical spellcasting build. So we've decided we're going to go into strength in numbers, which is all about having lots of minions on screen. So obviously the ultimate choice is pretty straightforward. Army of the Dead. Call forth a deep buried dead. Volatile undead emerge over the next 7 seconds that explode when around enemy. We're then going to take both upgrade paths. When the Army of the Dead skeletons explode, they have a 15% chance to leave a corpse. Now a corpse is going to be a key mechanic of the summoner build. When an enemy dies, or you use a skill that can leave behind a corpse from which you can summon your army. And finally, you've got Army of the Dead also raises your skeleton warriors and mages, which means basically you not only raise these exploding mages and skeletons, you summon your whole standard army. Going into the passives in the ultimate tree, we're going to be going for increased damage for minions, more tankiness for minions so they can't be taken out by a singular skill, as well as a bonus attack speed for your minions dependent on your health. Now there is this one here where you can gain 15% resistances. Now this will be important when you get into real end game content and specific enemies have huge amounts of elemental damage. Taking Golem Mastery to increase the damage and life of the golem. These are must takes when having a summoning build. There's a couple of these dotted around the skill tree which we will get to. Moving back, we go into now, I don't know if this is mislabeled, but this is called summoning. Now as we're going to have a lot of corpses on screen, I've gone for corpse tendrils for a variety of reasons. In this build, we're going to be doing increased damage to enemies that are slowed, stunned or vulnerable, and we're going to have a lot of corpses on screen that are going to be summoning a lot of skeletons. Corpse tendrils is an interesting skill. Veins burst out of a corpse, pulling in enemies, stunning them for 3 seconds and dealing 20% damage to them. Does not consume the corpse is the key takeaway there. So when you summon corpses, you can use this to slow them down. Enemies slain while stunned by corpse tendrils have a 40% chance to drop a blood orb. So again, this increases your tankiness ever so slightly. Now, as I said before, you have 4 skill slots, but really it's 3 because the ultimate takes one as well. And obviously summon skeletons and summon blood golem take them as well. So we're going to have Decapify as a curse skill. Decapify gives you the option to slow, as well as giving your army time to get to the enemy and deal as much damage as possible before they can get to you. It also has a skill here that allows you to reduce your cooldowns. 15% doesn't sound great. Then we have the Horrid Decapify, which means when your minions hit an enemy with 10% life or less, they're instantly killed. Super handy at cutting down engagement time. We then have the Skeletal Mage Mastery, again increasing damage and life by 45%. You have to take it in this build. And you've got Skeletal Warrior Mastery, same thing, 45% damage and life, you have to take it. This is a tanky passive used later on in the game. I think it's going to be super handy. When a corpse is formed, which is going to be often in this build, you are fortified for 2.4% of base life. and you'll be forming a lot of corpses. Down here we've got 2 more passives which we're maxing out. Consuming a corpse generates 9 essence. We'll be consuming a lot of them. You deal 12% increased damage for 4 seconds after consuming a corpse. Nice bonus passive, nice bonus damage. We'll go into the Book of the Dead at the end. We're going back into the core section of the skills. We're going to pick up some passives here. Your maximum essence is increased by 9. Really, this is 3 points. I didn't quite know where to spend it at this moment in time, so this is just where I've gone as a placeholder. More essence is always good. And this is another passive that's really important because it'll just give you more corpses to play with. That sounded weird. Your damage is up to 12% chance to create a corpse at the target's location. This chance is doubled against bosses. Obviously, you're going to have less enemies to create corpses from. That's a 24% chance to create corpses at the boss. Important. Finally, moving to the basic section, which is where you'd start. I've gone for Decompose just for the auto chance to create a corpse. So Decompose, tear the flesh from an enemy, dealing 30% damage per second and forming a usable corpse. These are your essence generating skills, and this is going to be important. Let's say you lose all your minions, or you're just in a bad spot, or you've died and you've lost all your minions. Got to be able to get that army up and going quickly. This is one of the opportunities to do that. Your upgrade here, if an enemy dies while being decomposed, you gain 10 essence, allows you to spam some of your skills that spend essence. And obviously the final one, you and your minions deal 10% increased damage to enemies who are being decomposed. Lets them die quicker, lets them create a corpse nice and easy. Moving on to the Book of the Dead now. If you're not running a summoning build, you're going to sacrifice a lot of these. In the Book of the Dead, you can sacrifice each separate summon to give you a boost to your character, but we're not going to be using them because we are all about the whole fantasy of creating a huge army. So just to give you an example, your critical strike chance is increased by 5%, but you can no longer raise skeletal warriors. It's just one such sacrifice example, but we're not doing any of that. We're going to go with the first option here for more damage. You do get 15% reduced life, but with the amount of corpses we're summoning, that should negate the quicker death of the minions by allowing you to summon more, and that's why we're focusing so much on corpse production. We picked the you can raise additional skirmisher option here. Again, more skirmishers is more damage. Now skeletal mages, to be honest, I'm still neither here nor there on which one to choose here. I've gone for this for the extra CC to give me survivability later on in the game. Here your mages can make the enemy vulnerable, which is increased damage across the board for your minions. The other one I like is the stun one, just because I love CC. I always play with CC. A 10% chance to stun for 2.13 seconds. Now this is for every shadow mage you have, every enemy on the screen, but it can't occur more than once in 5 seconds, obviously to keep it balanced and not broken. I quite like this one. Actually, just looking at it makes me think maybe I should go for that. 10% chance isn't huge, but if you're thinking about the increase in attack speed we're getting from other skills, this could actually be something we go for. In fact, I'm going to select it. And finally, we've got an Iron Golem again. CC, slam the ground and stun enemies. Golem slam attacks also make enemies vulnerable. Again, this is all about increasing the damage to enemies who have different vulnerabilities, slows, stuns on them. And that's the build. It's just really an opener on builds and what the skill tree looks like and what you're going to be selecting. One thing I really like about Diablo 4 is that you have to make important choices. You can't just select everything and have a boatload of skills and not really have to make any important choices. And I think that's going to really help build diversity. I think it's a fantastic choice, and it's better than just leveling everything up and just having everything. I think this is just much better this way. I still have got 2 points to use here, which I haven't used yet. Something I will consider further down the line, but this will probably be my opening Necromancer build. Now I may have missed some obvious things further down the line, and maybe if the game is super difficult at the higher nightmare dungeons, I'm gonna have to go into more tankier skills. I didn't choose any defensive skills in this build right now, but why would you when you've got 5,000 skeletons and golems in front of you? Anyway, quick look into Necromancer builds. I'll be doing a few more of these because they're fun, I find them enjoyable, and it's just good to talk about the game in the run up to its release. Peace, take care. Don't forget, we are giving away 3 copies of Diablo Deluxe Edition, and if I can get my hand on one of those free early beta access keys that O2 are giving out, because I am with O2, I'll be giving away that key as well, just because I'm nice like that. Alright guys, take care, peace.